I want to share with you a conversation with two of our co-roundtable friends, Robert Doar in Washington with the American Enterprise Institute, and Ron Haskins, also from Washington, D.C., but at the Brookings institution. Robert and Ron have worked together the last couple of years, one from the right, one from the left, trying to come together to create, if you will, a common vision of how Americans can reduce poverty levels. For families in general, particularly for children living in poverty, also specific communities, which for historic reasons, one thing and the other, do not seem to have the same opportunities to earn higher income and accumulate assets. So we're going to have a conversation with Robert and Ron, who visited Minnesota. They worked at the Washington level on a joint report. We have several groups in Minnesota, 4 think tanks, including the co-roundtable, one from the right, one from the left, and another nonpartisan group, which have come together with essays about how do we think about reducing poverty in Minnesota. And we will be sending out links to our essays and to the AEI Brookings report, which you can find on our website. I hope you enjoy the talk with Robert and Ron.
So the poverty report's main theme was that you can't solve problems of struggling Americans in one sphere like schools, or in another sphere like employment, or in another sphere like family. You really need all 3. We need our families to be stronger, we need our schools to be stronger, and we need our work world to be stronger, to provide greater opportunity for people to move up. So I think that's the main focus, that it takes all 3 together, and that people from both the left and right can come together with ideas that are practical and can move the ball forward in helping Americans. I think that's the main theme. There's lots of specifics, but the main theme is family, work, schools. All together can help people move up.
I think another extremely important message is that you can get people who represent the left and the right together. They can discuss a problem, a serious problem, the most serious problems facing the country for a year, and they can come to bipartisan solutions and improvement. If you look at Washington nowadays, you might think that's impossible. But I think both these reports show that it can be done, and the people that we had who were members of both groups are not squishes. I mean, these are serious people on the left and right. They don't represent the extremes, but they are left of center and right of center. We had very productive but aggressive discussions and came to agreement where we could come to agreement, and that's what our recommendations represent.
And so you mentioned there's a second report coming out. What is that going to cover that is different than this one?
There's a lot of overlap, but the focus of the second report is a different group. The first report is poverty. The second report is the working class. And it turns out that there's been a lot more concern about the working class. There's a terrific editorial by David Brooks in the New York Times on, I think it was last Friday, it might have been this weekend, about the working class and how policymakers have ignored the working class. Men have been leaving the workforce for many years. These are not poor men, but men who used to be in the working class have been leaving for the past at least 4 decades, a little bit more. And they're about 80% of them work now. So that's, in many ways, the backbone of the middle class economy is the workers, male workers, and they've been leaving the economy. So that's one big problem. Opioids have been a huge problem. There are big differences in geographic distribution of these problems. So that's what we address in the second report.
In both reports, there are 2, I think, big recommendations that apply to both groups. And one is that family matters a lot. Children do better in households that are led by 2 active and involved parents there for the long haul. In the United States, that usually happens inside marriage. And the fact that we got people from both the left and the right to agree that that was an important message to convey, given the fact that more and more of our children are being raised in households with only one parent present, was very important. Being raised in households without the benefit of both parents leads to all kinds of outcomes for children that are not positive, and we need to address it openly and honestly. And we said that in both reports. The second thing that we said in both reports is that we said that the post-secondary education after high school is too much emphasis is being put in 4-year bachelor degrees, when a much more appropriate way to approach it would be to help people get that education that fits their circumstance and their skills and their desire to get right into the workforce in a job that pays $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. So career and technical education, community colleges that partner with businesses with real jobs that pay real solid wages, that's a way we need to do a lot better at in helping people move up economically.
So my role is just to add to things that Robert points out. He's the creative one.
Yeah.
The problem of marriage and the decline in marriage and the decline of two-parent families is also a problem in the working class. That's one of the defining characteristics that we explore in some detail. And that decline is the percentage of kids in working class families who live with both their parents has declined dramatically over the last 2 or 3 decades. So that is a big problem, because we have a vast research literature showing that kids from single parent families do not develop as well, have more problems, more likely to be arrested, less likely to grow up to be married, get less education, a whole range of impacts like that than kids from married couple families.
Now, that's
so
not to
that's
say-
one big problem. Now, hold on, Robert.
Yeah.
The second thing is that both reports emphasize, as Robert said, the marriage part of this. And it is a real achievement to get both the left and right to agree with that. That's a great example of why it's useful to get these groups together, because I personally was quite surprised by that. I've been fighting this fight for many, many decades, for 2 or 3 decades. And it used to be people on the left rejected the idea that marriage was crucial. And a lot of people there, far out on the left, still do. But it's really an important thing. And if you're worried about kids, that's something you should be worried about. It does not mean that single moms cannot raise kids and have them grow up to be productive and successful and all that. But the odds are better if they have two parents.
Right, that's what I wanted to say, is that it's not, many single mothers do outstanding jobs, and many kids do well in those circumstances, but to not acknowledge the macro data that reflects these issues, and to also just be honest with young people about the difficulties of supporting and raising a child all by yourself, seemed to us to be something important to say, as a pure sort of educational effort to say, think carefully about your future. Graduate from high school, get a job, get married before you have kids, or at least find someone who you want to co-parent that child for a lifetime with. Those are straightforward guidance. We do a lot in the report that addresses circumstances when that doesn't work out. We provide assistance in all kinds of ways to single-parent households, and we should continue to do that. But we shouldn't also not recognize the importance of 2 active parents there for the long haul.
Well, thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Great.
Thanks for coming.